Okay, I come from a Catholic family, and we had 12, my parents had 12 children, and they were worked in the factories, so they became very politicized by the unions of those days. I think I must have learned about communism at the age of 10. My mother, a seamstress, was so in love with this concept of communism. But I mean, she got it from the very simple perspective that no one is rich and no one is poor. It has a balance in society. That was her view. So our parents really influenced us a great deal politically. And three of us ended up becoming political activists, and all three of us getting locked away in prison as political prisoners. So, yeah. But otherwise, I think also growing up in a colored community, well, different colored communities, physically moving around quite a bit. Um, One of my worst experiences as a 5-year-old was having to fight with white boys, because whites were being moved out of a certain area to go to a better area, and then us coloreds were being brought in to this leftover community. So the few whites who were still there didn't want to share the park, the playground with us. So we had to wait for them to go out, and then we would go and play. Then they'd come and throw stones at us and make their dogs bite us, really violent to us. So at the tender age of 5, I knew something was wrong with the country I lived in. They would start crying and we crying, and then I realized, what, you even as an adult now in my 60s, that it's important to fight back when people are very cruel, and there's no justification for that cruelty. And another thing we should talk about was a lot about us as colored people and our mix, especially if you're here in KZN. A lot of us have Zulu ancestors. And how can I put it? There was a time you could get married to a Zulu and to an Indian and a white, and it was all okay till apartheid started to come in the late 40s. So that was an issue now because there's so many colored women married to black fathers, and black fathers will be arrested because we used to call them the blackjacks. It was white men riding around in black vehicles, and they'd wore black clothes. So we as children from the age of 9, 10, we were like scouts looking out for for these black vans. So as soon as we see them, we would scream the whole district, the blackjacks are here, the blackjacks are here. So all the black fathers go into hiding, or maybe it's a black woman married to a colored man. So they'd all go into hiding. And we would feel so good as children that the police didn't find them. So politically, also that is so important to protect your friend's Zulu mother or Zulu father. But anyway, so at high school, I became involved in civic issues. Things like how do we get the municipality to put a swimming pool or fix the tennis courts that's here, or give us a lot of open space, give us a decent soccer thing. So how can I put it? At that age, in grade, what they call now grade 11 and grade 12, I realized that people have to do things for themselves. Number two, they have to interact with a government, whether it's the municipality or whether it's, just any source of power. You just have to, whether you like it or not. And it's no use saying, but that's political, therefore I'm not interested in politics. Well, it's civic also.
Take us through to when you started at UWC. I mean, that must have been quite a journey because you were by yourself. You traveled from KZN to Cape Town. And what was that like?
Oh, it was very scary, but I didn't want to cry at the station. Those days we traveled only in the trains. And I was really scared. But to get into the white university, I didn't qualify because what I wanted to study to be a social worker, it wasn't unique. You could get in, you could get a permit to the Indian university or the white university, but you had to be wanting to study something really that no other university offered. Even though we struggled, all of us from Durban, we struggled because a lot of the lectures were in Afrikaans by the colored lecturers and the white lecturers, although those days mostly white lecturers. And some of them were really silly. When it comes to giving you an example, or what this theory, how it should be applied to this situation or that. So they would give us examples about white people's experiences. I think that means nothing to us. So it was quite funny. And but we wasted a lot of time, us from Durban, because we had to translate these prescribed textbooks, which were in Afrikaans, into English. I'll do chapter 1, you do chapter 2, you do chapter 3. So it was really tough, but we really wanted to learn, and we really wanted to be educated women. So we endured that. And of course, that was the year of the Black consciousness movement. How wonderful was that? Because it's not so much now, but in our era, the apartheid era, white people tried very hard to convince us that there's something wrong with us, colored people, black people and Indian people also, because your hair is curly. Something's wrong with people who have curly hair. It means, you'll never reach a level of superior intelligence. You will never be a good thinker. And then the Black consciousness movement convinced us. The texture of hair is irrelevant. The color of your skin is irrelevant. And then, always saying, I'm black and I'm beautiful. I'm black and I'm proud. It would be so empowering. And a lot of people bought into that to this very day. If I just come across any colored person in particular, now mixed everything, as feeling self-conscious and less of a human being, and I will actually teach them that philosophy, that basic philosophy of Black consciousness. It was wonderful. What affected us, I mean, between Soweto and Bellville in the Western Cape, I mean, it's thousands, no, say just well over 1,000 kilometers. So we could not believe that just because they didn't want to study in Afrikaans, it was not in their academic interest to do so. It wasn't really so political, but okay, it became political. But the response of the state, well, those days the state was white state, because only white people could go into cabinet and parliament and fight things out there. So the brutality affected me badly. So now, this is 1976. We're getting introduced to Black consciousness. We are enjoying it. We are internalizing it. And yeah, these Black children and teenagers and their parents standing up for their right. They wanted to learn, but in English then, rather than in Afrikaans. But for us as colored students, hearing about that, you wanted to, there's something in you. Maybe it's spiritual if you're a Christian, or your religion as a Hindu person or as a Muslim, where it says you can't ignore the oppressed. Yes, you're oppressed yourself, but look what's happening to others. They're far more oppressed. What are you going to do about it? So it was easy for us to become organized in 1976 by the Black consciousness students. And it was so violent. Just for us there, also the colored students. I mean, the Defense Force sent the military in to deal with us right there on the campus. So that really shook us, all of us. Whether you were conservative or what, you couldn't be as a young adult to know what's happening to children. And the fact that these men could have it within them to be so brutal. Why? Then we really thought in our late teens and early 20s that all we had to do was pray and ask God to intervene. And for years we did that. Till we thought, no way. God has to use some of us to go and do the actual politicizing, political activities, the protest action, and then taking up arms. I mean, for me, I made a decision 3 years before uMkhonto Sizwe, trained commanders came and recruited me. It's like someone whispered that woman is ready to go and fight. My concept of joining them was that the laws of apartheid, if we don't burn it, you destroy that essence, that laws that make it possible for them to hurt us. And that's ridiculous, but that's how it came. And then 3 years later, they came to recruit me. And, I didn't even say, who are you? I just said, no problem. What must I do? So although we are a minority, we still formed, well, we used to all be politically active and then went to the military, the armed struggle. And a lot of us, just from this colored and Indian township, neighboring township, we were locked up in prison and served severe prison sentences, including death row in Pretoria. And Robben Island, where the men had to go there, and they were so young. Some were arrested at the age of 17. I was in 5 different prisons. You know, they moved us around for different reasons. And the prisons were unbelievable. At Westfield Prison, I was alone um, because now I'm charged with such serious crimes, politically motivated crimes. They put me in an entire wing of the prison, you know, all by myself. And it's tiny cells. Oh, it's so small. I used to count my steps from the bed to the toilet, and then, you know, because it was so small. So I ended up being sentenced to 9 years in prison, but the judge showed me mercy. And also couldn't understand that, but it was his prerogative. It was 9 years, and then it was a lot of them were suspended. So eventually, I was only convicted for, I don't know if you remember the incident at Edendale Hospital in Pietermaritzburg. We moved in there, rescued our comrade, and then 5 days later took him from intensive care with all the stitches here and all the bottles and all these things, all the way to Gaborone, you know, the capital of Botswana. And then he was saved. And we only did that because we heard they were going to kill him. He was one of the professionally trained guerrilla fighters, and he was colored. So they thought, you will not stay alive. We'll kill you for this. So we thought, no ways. It would be better if he stands trial. He gets sent to Robben Island like everyone else. Because I was in solitary confinement for 2 years of that 2.5, it took me 2 years to adjust to broader, wide society. It was so scary to come out. I couldn't even sleep at night without locking the door. I had to sleep in a locked room. Psychologically, I just couldn't sleep. I couldn't even cross the road because now people are bumping into me because I don't see them. Psychologically, I just don't see them. So it was stressful. Then I had to tell myself, look here, a part of you is damaged and you will never be the same again, number one. Number two, you will have to reinvent yourself. You will never be the same Greta you used to be. And I was too sure of myself. And then I learned not to let people see that you're sure of yourself, you're confident, you're brave, you're strong, because they want to beat you down. Maybe they don't even know they're doing that, but they're hurting you, you know, psychologically. So I learned to be humble. I learned to be more tolerant and forgiving. And taught me a lesson. It really humbled me.